Okay, so let's first look how to handle these exceptions. So I'm going to actually create a new class here, and this class is going to have a main. I'm going to call this being call it common exceptions. Okay, so a common exception would be something like we just did, right? So we have here integer c equals, or integer a equals 5, integer b equals 0, integer c equals a divided by b. We have our exception. Okay, so how do we handle it? We can handle this. We don't want to just throw it, right? So this is what's called being thrown to the main. So we don't want to just like throw this to the main. We want to handle it where there's a problem. So wherever there is a problem. So step one is identify the potential problem area. Okay, so that just takes some common sense, some critical thinking to know where the potential problem area is. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with this. This is where our issue is. When you have a number divided by another number, that denominator could be 0, could throw an error. Step 2 is add or surround with try catch. What is a try catch block? Try catch block. So try catch is what we're going to do is we're going to try to execute the following code, which is this. Okay. And then if there's an error, we're going to look for it. We're going to try and catch it. So it doesn't go up to the main. We handle it locally. We can say catch. And then what errors are we looking to expect? Well, in this example, we actually, when we first run it, we can see that the exception we're going to get, which is this one here, or that we might get. So we want to anticipate this exception. And we're going to put that, we're going to create a variable e. So if it does find that exception, it's going to put that into e. So we'll say sysout cannot divide by 0. And then we also print out e.toString. And just to know that everything's executing fine, we can add a sysout program is closing. Okay, so let's run this here, and there we go. So we got the error, cannot divide by 0. This is the message that printed from the e.toString, and the program continues to run. That's fine. Okay, so that's great. We can also add, let's say, another potential error would be, let's say we have a string of states, and let's say they're defined as California, Texas, Florida, and New York. Okay, so we're just kind of instantiating an array right here. Actually, we need to say this is, there we go. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. So for example, if we try and do 4, integer I equals 0, I less than states dot length, and then I plus plus. Actually, let's start at less than or equal to. And then now we're going to print out states at I. So I just want to iterate through and print each of these different blocks. There we go. So if I run this, there we go, California, Texas, Florida, New York. Okay, now I also get an exception. So the exception says, exception in thread main, so there's an exception we did not handle because it's in the main, and the exception is array index out of bounds, and then 4. So it gave us a little bit of information. It also says that that happened at line 22 right here. So this is our problem spot. So this is where we want to add our try catch. So try. We want to catch a array index out of bounds. Put that in also in E. And then say sysout error. We'll say index outside of array domain. We'll also print an e.toString because that'll give us a little information, for example, the specific error and then as well the number we were trying to use. So there we go. So there are two errors, and let me put this down here at the bottom. Now we handled them appropriately, and there we go. So this is about exception handling. So one, we handled it inside the program didn't crash, and we were able to give some more information. So these are try-catch blocks. You can have multiple catches, so you can have, say, catch, there's other exceptions here. You can have what's called then a finally block, and this will execute, let's change this so it doesn't get in there. So finally would say sysout finished, or say iterating through array. So that will print then every time because the finally will execute regardless of whether the catch is executed or not. Okay, so that's a little bit about try-catch block. I'll do one other example of like a user-defined exception. We'll combine a couple of these things all into one program.